Hi, welcome back to another Insider. This week, I'm going to make an Insider talking about something that, although is related to the Portuguese language, I think I owe all my non-Portuguese speakers an explanation and a little bit of a heads up of what is happening and why I did two special editions of the Insider in Portuguese. So today I'm going to explain to you what the Orthographic Agreement of the Portuguese language is about and why so many Portuguese and indeed Brazilians and people from all Portuguese-speaking countries are against it. Some of the countries did not apply it, and why it's all this fuss, why there's all this revolt and confusion about this. So stay with me and let's talk about this orthographic agreement and explain why we are against it. So, if you understand Portuguese and if you had the opportunity of watching my two special editions, you definitely know what I'm talking about. Moreover, if you are indeed a Portuguese citizen and if you speak Portuguese, you will definitely know what I'm talking about. But the reason I'm doing this Insider today is for all of you who actually are not Portuguese speakers and do not know what is going on and why there is so much confusion, so much friction because of this. So today I'm going to explain why and everything that has been done. So this orthographic agreement was signed between the Portuguese government and several other governments from Portuguese speaking countries, and at that time the Portuguese government agreed with this. Like we say in Portuguese, they cooked this absurd, and they agree with it. But however, none of the other countries did really apply it or agreed with it. It was signed, but then the other ones, no, we're not going to go and do this. And we went into a form of chaos. But this chaos is more visible in Portugal because it's the country that is actually being highly penalized by this. So, in other words, let me put it in a simple word and in a relatable way. So, the English language, we have the English language that came from obviously England, Britain, and you have the British, and then you have the variants of the English language, which is American English, Australian English, South African English. All of these variants have differences from the main, the mother language, English, and in the English-speaking world, everyone respects each other and everyone understands that these differences are there and everyone understands, everyone accepts it, no fights, nothing. So what happened in with the Portuguese language is that this wonderful government of theirs decided that it was time to unify the language because then they would remove the need to do multiple minutes in the UN. I'm even thinking if this is ever been truth, because I don't see it happening, for example, with the English language, and there's definitely a lot of members of the UN that speak English and with different variants. So for me, that sounds completely absurd. And then they wanted to unify the language, and the argument that there's more Brazilians than Portuguese, and this and that. Well, there is definitely more Americans than British, there is more Australians than British. Obviously, they're bigger countries, they have a lot of populations, and no one has ever thought that out of a sudden one of the variants would simply dominate all the others, and we started talking, let's say, American English. Nobody has ever thought of that because it's absurd. So this is what happened in Portugal. This agreement was signed, and in reality, most of the rules was imposing a variant into the mother language. So we were imposing the Brazilian variant into the main language, into the mother language Portuguese. Obviously, this couldn't go well with the Portuguese, of course, because it is a different language. If you hear the language that is spoken in Brazil and the one that is spoken in Portugal, you would see it's different. The same way that if you hear an American person speak and if you hear a British person speak, that it's also different. They can understand each other. The basis is English is there, but it's different. A lot of things are different, and there's no problem with that. So what happens was, all these rules, all these new phonetics, new orthography was imposed on the Portuguese, and they started being forced to write according to the Brazilian variant. This caused all sorts of problems because it's not natural. Languages evolve naturally, and this was not the natural evolution of the Portuguese in Portugal. So therefore, it could only lead to confusion, it could only lead to chaos. And when I say chaos, it is absolute chaos. In fact, not even the government itself is able to apply the monster that they have created themselves, because every day, if you look at the diary of the Republic, which is where everything that is passed in Parliament, all laws, etc., they are published in the diary of the Republic. And if you read the articles of the diary of the Republic, you will see that not even them, they cannot apply this absurd that they have created. And then you see words that are used according to these new rules, but then in the same sentence you will find some other words that are not, and that does not make sense, as you can imagine. For example, in Portuguese, the names of, for example, the names of the months, the names of the days of the week, they start with a capital letter. And that's how it is. Out of a sudden, they decide to take it. All the words with a hyphen, they started to taking it out, and more confusion came out of that. Even the accents on words. And the most absurd one is the use of certain words. There's P's and C's and all these things that may not be written or read in Brazil, but they definitely are in Portugal. And if you look, because Portugal obviously, and the Portuguese is one of the European languages, and obviously they all evolved and they came from Latin, as you know. And if you look at all other languages in Europe, including English, those letters are there. For example, when you say Egypt, you say Egypt. You don't say Egypt. You don't. When you say spectators, you say spectators. You read the C. You don't read spectators. You don't. So the same happened with the Portuguese. They read Egipto. The P, it's there. And the Portuguese read it. So now they write it without the P. So it's Egito. So it doesn't make sense to the Portuguese. With the spectator case, it's even worse because they have a word that is espetar, which is prickle, which is poke. So if you take the C out of spectators, espectadores, you get espetadores. So someone that prickles or pokes something. So it's a totally different thing. There's another one with facto and fato. Facto, it's a fact, like in English, a fact, a reality, something, a factual thing. And fato is a suit, a business suit. So you can see the differences here. And in Portugal, all these words are written like this. And we pronounce it. These P's, these C's, they are pronounced, they're there. And the Portuguese pronounce them. And when you force someone to, out of a sudden, speak a totally different language just for the sake of it, it's only gonna cause problems because it's not a natural change, it's not a natural evolution of the language, and that will cause problems, and that's what it happened. We started by a legislative initiative from citizens that was tendered in the parliament in Portugal. It was turned in a project of law, so it was kind of started to go, but never went into parliament. It never went into and they are trying to make it fall into their fears. So because they are trying to make it fall into their fears, now another person has started a new initiative, and this time around it is an appeal, a citizen's appeal to the president of the Portuguese Republic, so we can use his powers to make this matter discussed in Parliament, to make this matter discussed and make something about this, because most of people want this gone. So this is what is happening, and that's why I did these two specials, because I wanted to help out in this campaign. I wanted to alert a lot of people about this, because I know a lot of people are as revolted and disgusted about this as I am. And I think if you do the best you can to let people know that there's people out there and there's initiatives and ways that they actually can tell the Portuguese government, hey, I'm here, I want my voice heard, then it's a good thing. And that's why I did those two specials, because I wanted to reach out to as many Portuguese citizens as I can, so we can all together go and make this appeal to the Portuguese president and get this done, because it is appalling what is happening in schools at the moment. The kids are learning a language that is confusing. They write one thing and they pronounce another because they are used to pronounce the words properly, and then at school they tell otherwise, and this is causing all sorts of issues. Teachers are absolutely upset about this because they are forced to teach something that they don't agree with. Us translators, all linguists, we are against it, of course, because as language professionals, it's our duty to care about the tools that we use, and obviously the languages that we work with are our main tools, and it's wrong in all levels. It's wrong what is being done here, and that's why we're against it. And people from all walks of life see how wrong this is, and they want to stop it. So it is absolutely disgusting that what is happening in Portugal at the moment is that they have a cultural and language dictatorship. The Portuguese government is imposing these rules into the Portuguese, and this is a dictatorship. They can't even express themselves because the first thing that they do is try to make it go into deaf ears. So we need to keep on talking, and we need to keep on letting people know what is going on and call them out for the wrong that they're doing. This is damaging the culture. This is damaging the Portuguese identity because, as you know, and I've said this many times, your language is part of your culture. It's through language that you pass that culture through generations. If you damage the language, you're going to damage that culture. And this is what it's happening. And the language and culture together, they form a country's identity. This is damaging Portuguese identity. This is wrong and it needs to be stopped. And that's why I did these two specials. If you are a Portuguese citizen, I do invite you to watch my specials, and I do invite you to join us in this campaign and really join us in this citizens appeal. Let's show our discuss our revolt against this and ask maybe the president can do something about this. So this is why I did these two specials. And that's all for today. I hope you like this video. I hope you like this insider. And I hope now I could actually explain and give you a little insight of what is going on with the Portuguese language, why there is so much fuss around it, and why linguists like me are so against it. In my case, I've already refused a working contract because I would be forced to write according to these new rules, and I absolutely refuse because that's not Portuguese. At least that's not Portuguese from Portugal. There's not the Portuguese language, and therefore I'm not gonna write into another variant because I am not specialized on those. So if, as I said, if you are a Portuguese citizen and if you want to join us, please watch my videos. I've got all the details there. And where you can go and send an email with your name and profession so you can be added to the list. We already have a huge number of people, but obviously we want more. The more people that join us, the better, because we really want the president to see that this is not a minority, that this is a huge amount of people that are against this and see this for all the wrongdoing that this is doing to the country, to its culture, to its identity, to the children. I had one of the people that commented on one of my specials saying that she is Portuguese, she grew up in Portugal, and she was having and obviously she was forced to learn with these new rules, but she feels confused. She would like to learn the real Portuguese, and she really want to go and learn the real Portuguese and be able to understand the language. So if you are Portuguese and if you would like to join us, please do watch my videos, and I'll have all the details in there. Before I go, if you have any suggestion of anything, if something similar happened in your country, which I don't think it ever was, please let me know. Or what do you think about this? What would you think? What would you think if out of a sudden your government imposed a variant of your language into your country and they force you to write basically in another language? What would you think of that? Let me know in the comments. And put a like in the video and subscribe the channel with a click on the bell so you get a notification of a new insider every week. Before I go, I would like to thank you all for watching. See you next week. Thank you. Bye.